Hello everyone, thanks for tuning in to the first Winter 2020-21 update part 2. So we did part 1 on Sunday. We released part 1 as a premiere on the channel and on website on Sunday, and it seemed to go down very well. So that was focusing on things like sea surface temperature, anomalies, ENSO, what's going on with solar activity and Mercubio and all of that kind of stuff. So that was for like part 1 for the first winter update that we released on Sunday yesterday. And now we are at part 2, and this is going to be like focusing on the analogs. So this is going to be focusing specifically on analogs data. And we're going to be looking at 2 specific things. So we're going to be looking at winters following the warmest August on record. That is a direct follow-on from the last autumn update, by the way. More about that in a moment. And then we will also have a look at winters that follow summers with a centering temperature between 16.0 and 16.4 as summer 2020 came out with a CT of 16.2. More about that later on in the video, much more to come. But just to say that if you're enjoying the winter updates this season, I know we're only one update in, but if you are enjoying what we've done so far for the winter updates, then please give us a like on the video. Let us know in the comments what you think, and make sure you're subscribed to the channel. That'd be absolutely fantastic if you can do that. So this video is going to be quite a long video, of course, with all of the long range stuff. They're always pretty long videos of those. Splitting them up into 2 does make it a little bit more manageable for me to record and for you to watch, I think. But nevertheless, it will be quite a longish video, so if you can't watch it all in go, don't worry, it will be kept at the website, GavsWeatherVids.com, indefinitely with a written summary going over everything that we discuss in the video. I'll get onto winter updates page for you at the website probably tomorrow morning, probably on Tuesday morning. Just to say that I'm going to say a big thank you to our good friend Richard Traw as well for the gift that we have here. And later on in the video, Shryan, my good friend Shryan, has given a little bit of help on this one as well, and I explain how Shryan has helped when we get into the second part of the video. So I think that's pretty much everything that I've got to tell you. So yeah, let's get on with it, man. Let's get on with the first Winter 2020-21 update, part 2. Right, here we go then. So we're focusing to start off with on the August central temperature. So the CET for August, this is the CET page at UK Met, of course. CET for August came in at 17.6. It was 1.8 degrees above average. Very warm August, but not the warmest August on record. In fact, a long way short of the warmest August on record. Now, for like the last autumn update, we focused on autumns that followed summers with a CET range of 17.5 to 19.2 being the hottest August on record back in 1995. As we came out at 17.6, that still just about works. That range still just about works for this, but it is stretching it a little bit this now. So I am pushing this, but I did want to do something that would like connect the winter updates to the autumn updates, if you see what I mean. So I thought that as it still just works, as August 2020 CET is still just in that range, then we could do this. But bear in mind, I am pushing this a little bit. I am pushing it, and I am stretching the idea a little bit with this. But let's do it then. So we're going to start off with the winter of 1899-1890. Remember, all of these winters are following an August CET of 17.5 to 19.2. So basically, these are all winters that are following the hottest August on record, really. You know, right at the very top end of a range of really warm August. So the first winter is 1889-1890. This one looks like it's an unsettled winter with low pressure over top of the UK and Northern Europe, but it does also have quite a lot of northern blocking as well. And so therefore, this could well be quite a cold winter, I would have thought, 1899 to 1900. The next winter is 1911-1912. This is a very mild and wet winter. This is unleashed in the Atlantic, bringing low pressure in off the Atlantic, and so this is a mild and wet winter in 1911 and 1912. Our next winter is 1933-1934. This one is an anticyclonic winter. It has a cold December. Otherwise, there's not a great deal going on during this winter. It's just very, very anticyclonic, high pressure dominated, and frequently quite chilly, but I'm not sure it's ever that wintry, if you see what I mean. It's a very dry and quite cold winter, especially so in December. Next winter is 1947-1948. So this one, again, is unleashing low pressure. We're unleashing low pressure from off the Atlantic. This is a very mild and wet winter in 1947-1948. Our next winter, following an August CT range of 17.5 to 19.2, is the winter of 1955-1956. This is quite a cold winter, especially late on. Has a freezing cold February, this one. What am I doing with that? So let's get rid of that. It has low pressure to our south and east. High pressure is out to the northwest. And winds are screeching in from the east. Now, bear in mind, most of this winter, in the early part of it, is very mild. So December 55 is mild. A good part of January 56 is also mild, but at the very end of January 1956, it gets bitterly cold, and then February 1956 is severely cold. It's a severely cold month. Our next winter is 1975-1976. This is a dry and mild winter. This is part of the drought years, of course, in the middle of 1970s. So this one, high pressure dominated. It's a mid-latitude high, so it's not a particularly cold ridge. Generally just dry and mild in the winter of 1975 to 1976. 1976 to 1977 shows up next. So this is a rather cold winter. This is the beginning of a run of colder winters, really, that started with 76-77 and carried on like to the middle of the 1980s, ended, I suppose, with the winter of 86-87. There's like a 10-year run from 76-77 to 86-87 of quite cold winters. Not every single winter in that run was cold. There were a couple of milder winters as well, but generally this is like a decade of winters that tended to be colder. This is the start of it. This has a cold December, and into January 77 it is quite cold as well, but later on in winter it gets very, very mild. So we have low pressure here over UK and out to west. Winds are in from a westerly direction. So despite the northern blocking, and that's indicative of what happened in the December 76 was a cold month and into early January, but the rest of winter mode was very mild and wet, especially so in February of 1977. So that's what we call a front-loaded winter, where it's colder early on and then got milder later. Next we have 84-85. This one with high pressure up to our north, low pressure is to our south, just here. So this is a cold winter. This is a very cold winter for 84-85, with winds coming in from the east. Again, it's part of that run of cold winters from the late 70s to like the middle of the 1980s, and that's one of the very cold winters of the 1980s in 1985. Then we have 1990-1991. This is also quite a cold winter, Scandinavian high with low pressure out to our west. So this one, it does have some on and off cold in December, but the cold really bites later in January and through to early February. It has a severely cold and snowy spell through the early part of February 1991. That is severely cold in early February 1991. A true beastly easterly that year. Then we have 1995-1996. Of course, this is the hottest August on record with a CT of 19.2. So I'm not sure how relevant this is really for this year, which would be nowhere near that hot in August. But nevertheless, it's still part of that range from 17.5 to 19.2. So it still has to be included. This is another cold winter, low pressure to our south. It's a very easterly winter, of course. This has the high pressure over Scandinavia. Between Scandinavia and Greenland, and we bring in those bitterly cold easterly winds quite regularly. It's not continuously cold, it's on off, but that's a cold winter in the middle of the 1990s. And there weren't that many cold winters in the 1990s, so we remember that one quite well, I think, because it wasn't a particularly good decade for cold winters. Next up, we've got 97, 98. It's an exceptionally mild winter. Lots of dry weather with this one. High pressure. It's sort of covering much of northern and western Europe, and we're drawing up a southerly wind. Very, very bizarre sort of pattern, and it is part of a Super Nino winter that was going on as well during 97 and 1998. Next up, we have 2003, 2004. Again, following a hot August in 2003. So this one, the last time we had an 18 Celsius CT August, by the way, in 2003. This one with high pressure to our west and sort of bringing in the wind from like a northerly direction some of the time anyway. So it gets colder later with this. So it's more of a backloaded winter. It tends to get colder like into February and even into early March, really. And the early part of winter, like December 2003, which is 2004, is actually quite mild. So it's sort of a nondescript type winter, really. And then last year is 2004. We've got 2004, which actually had a CT the same as this year at 17.6. And this winter for 2004-2005 has high pressure to our west, and we're bringing in winds from like a westerly type direction. So again, this is backloaded winter. It's quite mild early on in winter. It has a white Christmas for the north in 2004, but generally the early part of this winter is quite mild, and then the cold really bites later in February of 2005. And there's like a 4-week run of cold and snowy weather, really, from like the second half of February, like the third week of February, I suppose, to the second week of March 2005. Right, putting out all of that together, and this is how all Decembers combined are coming out following winters with a CT of 17.5 or more, 17.5 to 19.2. So all Decembers combined tends to have higher pressure to the north, lower pressure to the south. So you could envisage these Decembers could be quite cold, actually, some of the time. Anyway, they could favour a rather colder setup. Gets more interesting for January. This is how all January's combined are looking following these warm Augusts. And again, we have quite a non-blocking signal with the lower pressure tending to be over and slightly to the south of the country. That could be quite a cold and wintry signal for these Januaries, with winds tending to be more in from the east. It gets even more interesting though for February. It's how all Februaries combined are looking following these Augusts with a CT range of 17.5 or more, and blocking really setting up towards Greenland and Iceland then. Low pressure to the south. Bear in mind, not every single February is going to be doing this. So for example, in the package we have got 1977, which had a very mild February. So we're just looking at the on average sort of thing, if you see what I mean. But yeah, really quite a coldish signal potentially for February. And as we go on into March, that one could also be pretty cold, actually. As we get through into March, we could again have some higher pressure up around Greenland and Iceland. Winds could generally be in from the easty direction. So yeah, this looks like it could be a signal for a colder winter, really. This is how all winters combined is looking. This is all winters combined following an August CT of 17.5 or more, and we have a very, very strong northern blocking signal. Look at that. Lots of high pressure within the northern latitudes, lower pressure to the south, winds in from the east. Yes, this is a signal on average, not all the time, but on average, this is a signal for a cold winter following those very mild Augusts. Right, we've spoken for 13 minutes. I'm going to pause the video there. For anybody who's not watching this as a premiere, because we won't be pausing the video on the premiere with this, when we're premiering it. But for anybody who watches it after that, I'll pause the video there. You've got a little bit of a stopgap. You've got to go off and stretch your legs, get a cup of tea, a couple of biscuits. And we'll be back in a moment, very shortly. We'll return, and then we'll have a look at summer to winter temperature data. So I'll pause the video there, and I'll see you very, very soon. Okay, we're back, and we're ready to resume the second part of the first Winter 2020 updates analog special. So if you are enjoying the video, then please give us a like on the video. Let us know in the comments what you think. Make sure you're subscribed to the YouTube channel, and you'll be able to be notified then when we release the winter updates as part 1, part 2 on a Sunday and on a Monday as well. Right, so before the break, we was talking about winters that follow August, like the warmest August on record, if you see what I mean. So with a CT range of 17.5 to 19.2. Now we're going to look at summer to winter data. So let's get on then. So we are going to go back to CT page. So this how the CT comes out for summer 2020. June has a CT of 15.3. July has a CT of 15.7. August has a CT of 17.6. Put those three together, and we actually come out with a summer 2020 central temperature of 16.2. 16.2 was our summer Central England temperature for summer 2020. My good friend Shrine Bruin has compiled a list of summers that had a CT range of 16.0 to 16.4. Thank you so much, Shrine, for getting this list together for me. And so very simply, we are going to have a look at the winters that followed those summers that had a CT range of 16.0 to 16.4. And I'm going to whiz through these as quickly as I possibly can, because there's quite a lot of them. So the first winter is going to be winter of 1859-1860. This is a very wet winter. Low pressure covering much of northern and also much of Western Europe as well. The next winter is going to be 1865 to 1866. And this one, again, low pressure out to our west and bringing winds from a westerly direction. So that's a mild and wet winter in 1866. Our next winter is going to be 1870, 1871. This one with low pressure across much of northern and western Europe, high pressure up towards Greenland. And so it's an unsettled winter and potentially a little bit colder with that one. Potentially a little bit colder. Our next winter is 1876, 1877. This is a mild and very wet winter, very unsettled winter with low pressure across much of northern and western Europe. Winds are in from the west. Even back in the 1800s, there were plenty of mild winters, which is something that people tend to forget. However, this one is a much colder winter. This is a severely cold winter. It's 1878, 1879, part of an abnormally cold year. The last time we had a 7 Celsius CT year was in 1879, and so this starts it all off, really, that very cold year. This one, you can see why it was a severely cold winter with loads and loads of snow, because it has all of this northern blocking up towards Greenland with low pressure over the UK and much of Western Europe. Winds are in from an easterly direction. So that severely cold winter does actually follow quite a warm summer with a CT range of 16.0 to 16.4. In fact, I think the summer of 1878 probably came out with a CT of 16.2. Somebody correct me on that, but I've got a feeling 1878 did have summer 1878 did have a CT of 16.2. Bang on the temperature we've had for this summer, interestingly, and it was followed by a severely cold winter. Next up, we have 1887, 1888. This is another quite cold winter as well. This one with higher pressure within the northern latitudes, lower pressure to the south. Winds are coming in from an east or northeast direction. So that's another pretty cold and wintry winter for 1887, 1888. I think it has a white Christmas. Very cold Christmas to New Year, I think, in 1887. Quite a long gap then through to 1921. So our next winter is 1921, 1922. This is a mild and wet winter. Winds are in from a westerly direction, mild and wet for the winter of 1921, 1922. Then we have 1934, 1935. Don't know a great deal about this winter. I think it's very unsettling. It looks like it would have been a very cold winter for many central parts of Europe. We've got these above average heights to the north and the west. I don't think it's particularly cold for us in the UK, though. I think it's probably quite a mildish and unsettled winter, but it does look as though it was probably a very cold winter for many central parts of Europe. 1935, 1936 shows up next. This one's quite interesting. It has a northern blocking signal, which you will think will probably deliver quite cold weather, but actually it's quite a mild but also very wet winter, I think, for 1936, 1937. A very, very long gap then through to 1984, 1985. So can you believe that? We go from 1935, 1936 so I suppose like the summer of 1935 when we had CET range of 16.0 to 16.4. The next time we have a summer within that CET range of 16.0, 16.4 is actually in 1984, 1985. This showed up a moment ago, of course, in the first part of the video. It's a cold winter with high pressure to our north, low pressure is to the south, winds are in from the east, and yeah, that's a very cold winter in the middle of the 1980s with regular snow, and particularly cold in January of 1985. So interesting, that showed up twice in like succession. Next up we have 1990-91. That also showed up, of course, in the first part of the video. So again, missed one with high pressure over Scandinavia, low pressure to our west, winds are in from the east. It has the severely cold spell of weather in the first half of February of 1991, a true beastly easterly. So those two showing up twice, quite interesting. 94-95 is the next time we have a CT range of 16.0 to 16.4. This one is a very mild and wet winter, low pressure to our north and west, high pressure to the south, winds are coming in from a westerly direction. That's one of those very mild and wet 1990s winters. 2001-2002 is our next winter. This one with high pressure to our south, low pressure to the north. This is quite a strange sort of winter. So it starts dry and quite cold actually for December 2001 and into the new year of 2002. And then it goes much milder, very wet and very mild February in 2002. 2004-5 is our next one. So again, this showed up in the first part of the video as well. So once more we see the high pressure out to west, low pressure is to our south and east. Again, it's a backloaded winter with most of the cold occurring in a 4-week spell from like the 3rd week of February to the 2nd week of March. Then we have 2005-2006. This one looks like it should be a very cold winter. It has lots of high pressure to the north, and you would look at it and think we're bringing in a lot of easy winds, but it's a winter that just never quite gets going. Again, it is backloaded, but it has quite a prolonged cold spell in the second half of February 2006 through to the first half of March 2006. So there's like 3 backloaded cold, backloaded winters for cold. For 2003-4, 2004-5, and 2005-6. 3 of them in succession are backloaded. And then we have 2013-2014. This is, of course, exceptionally wet winter. Exceptionally wet and stormy. Also very, very mild winter. 2013-2014 with just a continuous succession of storms. 2016-2017. Next, this one is a dry anticyclonic winter, very, very dull winter in 2016-17. This one is more interesting. This is the beach from the east winter, of course, 2017-18 with low pressure to our east, high pressure is out to the west, winds and projection again plunging a little bit further southwards. So yeah, we know what happens with that one. We have the beach from the east late in February 2018, but it does also have quite a cold spell in the middle of December 2017 with some snow, which some people have probably forgotten. And then the last winter that followed the summer with a CT range of 16.0 to 16.4 is the winter of 2019-20, polar vortex of doom. Polar vortex of doom in this winter 2019-20. Winds in from the southwest, high pressure's down there, low pressure's up here. You don't want a repeat of that if you don't want the polar vortex of doom. Right, okay, let's put it all together then. This is how all Decembers combined are looking following a summer CT range of 16.0 to 16.4. Generally a wet signal for these Decembers with low pressure across much of Western Europe. There is high pressure up towards Svalbard, but not really strong enough to favour much in the way of cold weather on average. However, more interesting for January. Still that trough of below average heights across the west of Europe, but the ridge to the north, northeast and northern blocking is much stronger in these all January's combined charts. And so this leaves us bringing in those easterly winds perhaps. So could be a colder signal for January. All February's combined reverts back to generally a mild but wet scene with a trough of low pressure over top of the country. We lose most of the northern blocking and we just revert to mild and wet conditions. And then all March's combined following that CT range of 16.0 to 16.4 brings the blocking back towards Greenland to some degree with lower pressure to the south, so the cold could come back perhaps in the Marches. So generally mild and wet for December and February, colder for January and possibly also for March. If we narrow things down to just the years after, this is how all winters combined are looking, sorry. So generally quite an unsettled and wet scene for these all winters combined with low pressure across west of Europe. On-off cold, potentially in January, maybe in March. And then if we narrow things down to just the years post-1950, so this narrows things down a lot, we see that all December's combined reverts to more of an anticyclonic signal post-1950 with higher pressure tending to be through the UK and much of Western Europe, lower pressure up to the north, jets being pushed northwards as well. So these Decembers tend to be dry and quite mild, you would have thought. January still looks interesting. So we still have that area of above average heights, but more so over Scandinavia. So maybe favouring a bit of a Scandinavian high, really, with a lot of these Januaries following a summer CT range 16.0 to 16.4 post-1950. All February's combined turns very unsettled, so really strange patterns here for these winters. All February's combined turns very unsettled. Still some northern blocking up to the north, but on average it looks like the February's go very wet and potentially quite mild. And then all Marches, it looks like we raise the heights up towards Greenland again. All Marches combined post 1950, raising the heights up towards Greenland, lower pressure to our south. Could be a little bit of cold potential coming through with those Marches. All Winters combined, finally, so this is all Winters combined following a summer CT range of 16.0 to 16.4. The analogue looks like this. So it's quite a strange analogue with high pressure out here and low pressures there. That's trying to bring in mild westerlies. Post 1950, of course, with these, but also with northern blocking as well. That's particularly so up in January. It's trying to bring in those easterly winds. So a mixed bag there, but I think what we can say is that certainly the August data is favouring colder winters, and to some degree so is the summer data too, but much more sort of on-off. And particularly focused on January, I think, with the summer to winter CET data. Whereas with the August data, it's much more sort of focused pretty much through the winter, actually. So quite interesting how that's come out. The summer to winter data I would take more seriously probably than like the August data, because I think it was pushing that CET range with the August data, given we was at the very, very lowest end of that range. But nevertheless, I think an interesting package of analogues to start us off. Please let me know in the comments what you think about this. And yeah, I think quite an interesting package of analogues to start us off. Big thanks to Shryan and also to Richard for the help on this video. Right, so that's it for the first Winter 2021 update, parts 1 and parts 2. We'll be back on Sunday with the second Winter 2021 update, and be part 1, and then we'll do part 2 again on Monday next week. And the analogues with that are going to be focusing on, I think, on August and also summer rainfall. Rainfall is what we're focused on there with the analogues. Right, so that's it. Been an entertaining couple of videos. I hope you enjoy them. Please give us a like on videos. Let us know in the comments what you think. Make sure you're subbed to the channel, and we'll be back with the second Winter 2020 update, part 1, on Sunday. I'll see you then. Bye for now.